Cool. Okay. Hello, WIIT. I am Sasha, your music director, and I'm here with Eagle Johnson.
Hi, I'm
Um,
Eagle.
Pretty awesome. Do you mind if I ask you your pronouns?
What was that?
Your pronouns?
Um, he.
He,
I
him.
I don't really, I don't really have a preference, to be honest.
Cool. Thank you. Um, okay, so I'm gonna get started. Sorry, I have not used Zoom in like so long, so it's like trying to figure this out. Okay. So, first off, how are you today?
Doing good, doing good.
Awesome. What does music mean to you?
Oh man, first question. What does music mean to me? Um, Music is it's a solace. It's a comfort. It's kind of like oxygen, you know. It's like it's a need that we're unconscious of at this point. It's like if it weren't there, it would be so eerie and silent, and you would notice, but
Yeah,
it just sort of fills in gaps subconsciously in a very needed way to me.
nice. Um, what's your like big inspiration for Wild Heart?
You mean like the title or just the
I guess like
music in
the album
general?
in general, like all encompassing. I was just like, what are your like biggest inspirations or thought that went into the album?
Um, well, there's a couple kind of, it's not a concept album by any means, but I did have some concepts in mind. One of the things I wanted to do with this one was I got inspired by this idea of work with the most talented people in your neighborhood. Um, I guess I live in a pretty talented neighborhood. I tried to work with literally the closest studio to my house for recording, the closest mastering studio to my house. Um, One of my roommates is the drummer. The That was the sort of one of the underlying ideas behind it, and that worked out. Being in Nashville, that's a little easier than in some places, I think.
Mhm.
Um, but then musically, I wanted to. I thought in my mind I was sort of filling this void of something raw and real. Um, I know in my circle of friends, we seem to all be sort of getting jaded by the like uber perfect recordings, like polished note for note perfection that is in a lot of ways just a sort of computer program stuff. Not to, poo poo on any music, but it when you hear something that you know has been perfected from a digital standpoint like that, it's I don't know, it loses something for me. I was hoping that there's more people feeling that way that wanted something raw and something real. Musicians playing instruments live. Um, that's how we recorded the album, just live in a room, really raw to tape. So yeah.
That's very cool. I am like big on DIY culture and like the local scene. So that's great to hear. I really do enjoy that.
Cool.
Um, Going back on like I guess like kind of influences, what are like some like um musical influences or like artist influences that influence you as a musician?
Um, well, it really spans my deepest sort of love for any genre or era is classic reggae, like late 60s, early 70s reggae is my favorite. Um, I grew up listening to a lot of weird stuff. I actually wanted to be a percussionist, like a symphonic percussionist at one point. I wanted to be a jazz drummer at one point. So I listened to a lot of really weird stuff when I was a kid. Um, like Gene Krupa, like Louis Prima. I was in a ragtime marimba band. um, but other than that, nowadays, I'm definitely into the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, that stuff. Modern wise, though, Khruangbin. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Um, I really like Andrew Bird. Um, I like the Arcs. Uh,
Darks is they're pretty great.
it's not really what I'm up to, but I'm a huge Kimbra fan. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but I'm like a Kimbra super fan. I think she is just one of the best artists there is, um, period, ever. But yeah.
Nice. Um, Also going back to like local culture, I guess. In what ways do you think like the culture of like Nashville, Tennessee, like influence your style of like music or lyricism or just like music in general?
Sound wise, there's definitely, well, there's sort of two different worlds here, honestly. There is the super commercial pop country world that is not this particular neighborhood. This is East Nashville here, sort of anti-pop mindset, seems like, or pop country rather. Um, but then over here, there's very much like, I don't know how it is other places, but there's very much like a rock and roll scene, super sort of regionally influenced rock and roll. I wouldn't call it Americana. I wouldn't call it country, but it has some twang to it. It's gonna it You can't help but hear the country music coming from downtown. Um, so I think that aspect of it, and me actually being from the South, there's definitely something Southern in there, subconsciously, mostly. I don't think that I try to do that, but can't escape your roots, I guess. Um, but then the rock and roll, sort of raw live rock and roll scene is really big here, and I think that definitely helped me believe that there's a an audience for that type of stuff. I thought for a long time that it was, a thing of yesterday, but there's plenty of people surviving playing rock and roll around here, it seems like.
Nice. You mentioned that Young World is your record label. How is that
Mhm.
go? Or how is that like kind of process?
Well, at this point, this Wild Heart record is the first thing I've released under Young World Records. Um, and it was sort of just to make me feel more official, and I always feel like independent, when you release something independently, seeing that written can kind of go either way. Some
Mhm.
people want to, like, oh, it's independent, I want to listen to it, while others seem to not have much time for independent releases and only want to deal with something that has some sort of label title. So
Yeah,
that was the mindset there. I do hope to kind of build it into a bigger thing, get some distribution and that sort of thing going. Um, but yeah, it's a baby at this point, just getting started.
nice. Is there any like idea of a tour possibly soon? Um, I know you play some shows where you're at right now, but just like maybe going out and like in the surrounding cities or anything like that in the works?
Yeah, I'm trying to talk to some folks in Chicago. See what's happening there. We also got some cool radio play in St. Louis, so we might try to start making the little St. Louis Chicago loop from Nashville here pretty soon. But touring's really tough right now. I hate to argue for any sort of limitations, but it's you're asking a group of grown men to for their for a week of their time, and usually not much money, and if any money at all. um it's a really big ask.
Mhm.
It seems like I would love to just go out and play at shows whenever, but just to get the whole group of people involved, and unfortunately the money part is a factor. I hate that, but it takes money to make shows happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course. Um, so who is Clean Machine?
Well, Clean Machine is, I guess you could call it sort of a recording group of some buddies that were my hometown buds. I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. Um, Two of them lived here while we were making that record. Um, then one of them was kind of back and forth. But they all do separate things. The bass player owns a guitar strap company called Original Fuzz, and he pretty much does that full time. Is buried with that. Then the drummer, he sings country music, and he does that pretty much full time. And then the keyboard guitar player guy, I think he's down in Florida at the moment, and he has a little studio. But that's one of those things where if we're all together, I guess we could get a record going. They want to keep Clean Machine as them. Um, Maybe we'll do another record, maybe we won't. Not sure at the moment.
Nice. Um, you mentioned, or not to me directly, but working with the Godfather of Reggae, Lee Scratch Perry. How was that?
Um, Mind blowing to me. That if you don't, for those who don't know, Harley Records produced Exodus as well. So, being a classic reggae fan and a huge Bob Marley fan, um, that is the absolute pinnacle as far as artists or producers or anyone that I could ever dream to be tethered to in any way. It's him, and yeah, he's wild, um, but not as wild as maybe he looks on YouTube and TV and stuff. He was yeah, pretty down to earth, able to communicate and get stuff done with me at least.
Nice. Um, well, I don't have anything else. If you like to share anything or anything that you want to talk about, please do so by all means. So, yeah,
Um, well, just check out the new record Wild Heart if you have a few minutes. If you're listening in here, and I appreciate your time. Thank you for the interview.
of course. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time as well. Um, and yeah, great. Thank you.